Hi, this is Dan Z from Coffee with Kenobi, and you are listening to the Rebel Base Card Podcast. Great pull, kid.
What a swell party this is.
You've seen the show, and like us, you have questions.
Ooh, that was a good one, but try this one on for size.
No question should be left off your list.
Whoa. I got a crazy theory, but hear me out.
But you better have some spares.
Oh, that was one of mine. All right, let's do this instead.
With me, as always, is my friend and Card Squadron winger.
This is Greg Cass, a.k.a. Ion Cannon.
We've recorded at home and across the U.S.
Last summer, we were from the Boston Common. This week, we're in Chicago. This is day 3 of celebration.
The show has had many names, but the purpose is the same. Let's share some time at the table.
Ding ding, it's time for breakfast.
Welcome to the Breakfast Pack, a Rebel Base Card micro podcast series. A Star Wars insert podcast series that asks more questions than it answers, once again between Star Wars shows. Today on Hot Stove Breakfast Pack number 98, we're asking questions on the Andor Season 2 trailer and a lot of other Star Wars news and notes, and basically tailgating on the Colby cast because, well, I have my co-host for an hour before I got to return him back to Jen Subchakchai and to the rest of the crew at the long take. So back on temporary loan from Oscar Marathon Watch Party Express is my co-host and Card Squadron winger Gregory Cass from IonCannon.com. Greg, nice to see you. Your eyes look normal, but I know that this is Crunch Week, man. This is Crunch Week.
Well, good to see you as well. I was going to start by saying last night I had a dream. The world turned around. The revolution or the breakfast starts now. It is so exciting to be back, man. What a week for Star Wars news, some of which turned out to be fake. But the good news was all true, which is a really great Andor trailer and Revenge of the Sith coming to theaters, as I think we all expected, but really exciting that it's confirmed now.
Oh, we are going to take those bits little by little, but I do not want to take away the energy from Dance Dance Mothma Revolution, because I mean that's what I'm calling it. Because this trailer was off the hook, and what a way to start the week! I was coming it off the high of Topps hobby rip night,
yeah.
and all this kind of stuff, and I'd released my show feeling good about it, and all of a sudden the Andor trailer hits, and I'm like, well, that week is over. It's like welcome Monday back. But yes, so much has happened, and just trying to unpack this. Now, there are going to be other podcasts out there that are going to take this trailer with a fine-tooth comb and pick it frame by frame. With everything.
I'm picturing the guys in Spaceballs, right, with the little pick. Yeah.
With the rake, and they're going like, but I'm telling you. So what I thought we would do is kind of, yes, we're going to kind of go over some of our feelings about the trailer. I was thinking like, should I queue up the trailer? But, no, we'd have to talk over it. And last time I did a trailer, I put it on another track that took me an hour to edit it out. I'm like, never mind.
Oh, no.
We can work around it. But yes, there was also the news of, and we'll get to this after a bit, on the Andor Season 2 release schedule. And the subsequent me texting furiously to a lot of people. And then, of course, we had the Kathleen Kennedy, retirement announcement, which I think my favorite was the dude that did it was either a TikTok or YouTube that said, it's almost official. And I'm like, that's not a real thing. But we'll get to that after a bit. And then we had the, Revenge of the Sith 20th anniversary announcement that it's going to go back into theaters, which that was, not a shocker. But before we get to all this, because I heard a plea, and first off, I thought I'd done something wrong. All of a sudden, I heard this cry as if a million voices said, I would like to talk about Captain America Brave New World, but was shut down by my boss. And I'm like, whoa, wait, did I said no such? Oh, he's talking about the other podcast. So I want to get your hot take, because I also saw it too, on Captain America Brave New World. We'll just start a Star Wars podcast off with something Marvel. But that's the theme of the week. If you listen to my last podcast, we talked to Ian Taylor of the Marvel Card Collectors podcast. So there we go, Greg. There's my segue. Let's talk about Captain America Brave New World.
Well, thank you so much for even just a tiny bit of Marvel time. So, and let's not forget, we have Harrison Ford himself, and we have
Yes.
Moff Gideon, Giancarlo Esposito in this film, among other talented folks, and so that makes it a Star Wars family show. So, I think why I've been desperate to talk about this is I think it's getting a hugely bad rap. Now, I'll be the first to say it is not the best Marvel movie.
No.
Nor do I think we've had any really, truly incredible Marvel movies in a long time. But at the same time, like, what are you looking for, folks? Like, it's not going to be Citizen Kane when you go to the theater. It's going to be a little messy and a little goofy. And I thought, for a messy, goofy movie, it was a heck of a good time. I really enjoyed myself. Now, I'll talk in a minute about how I saw it with Henry, my son. But you took the whole family, right? How did that go?
The stars aligned, and everybody was kind of off that night, and I was like, all right, let's I'll get the tickets, and we have a theater not that far, and generally, like in our AMC, the one that's nearest to us, they have those nice little sections on the side. They've got 4 seats. It's perfect because everybody can get their their drinks and their popcorn. And yes, my son got the Captain America shield popcorn bucket, which was dope, by the way. Which I ended
Super cool.
He bought it with his own money. I subsidized it a little bit later because I'm like, look, I know that was like $50. It was like 35 plus the popcorn, but I'm like, it was gorgeous, and it's on one of his shelves. But I was like, yeah, it's interesting because I sat through, and once you kind of felt like, oh, this is where it's going, you're like, okay, then this is the movie that it's trying to be. But I don't know if Endgame would have come after Wolverine and Deadpool. And really, I mean, that's how do you follow, the movie that's still making money at hand over fist. And it was a good movie. It was a fun movie. You didn't have to like watch anything to really get there. But, you come into what is, the Captain America movies are kind of like they're darker in tone. They've got a lot more story to them. I don't know how it could have done anything else other than be it. Now, granted, there's a lot of reshoots and the blah, blah, blahs and the drama that comes with any of this. But, I enjoyed it, and I agree with you. It ain't the worst Marvel movie we've seen. And we have seen, I think I've seen them all. I think except I haven't finished Eternals. And gosh, was that a mistake on my part.
Yeah.
But,
yeah. Well, and that brings up a really interesting point. So I actually relate this a lot to the Harry Potter movies. I kind of the first 2 or 3 Harry Potter movies, it was like, this is for everybody. Everybody can enjoy this. And kind of when you get into 5, 6, and 7, it's like it probably is mostly for the people who have been here and the people who have read the books. Now, again, if you haven't read the books, you can probably make your way through those. No problem. There's enough there. But I think we have to recognize that while Marvel is, not at the heights it was in terms of popularity, they're really playing to the choir now. And I see all these critics complaining like, are you kidding me? You have to have seen Eternals and Falcon and Winter Soldier and all that. It's like, yeah, and that's what we do. Like, that's what it means to be a part of this fan community. And so I don't have a lot of patience for that. The fact that it developed primarily Eternals and the 2008 Incredible Hulk movie, which starred a whole different Hulk than we have now. That's bold, but I thought it worked. And again, I'm somebody who's been here since that Hulk. I don't believe I saw that one in the theater, but I saw the first Iron Man in the theater, and that was that same summer. And it's really fun that all these tiny little strings kind of get tugged at. And I've seen other people saying like, oh, it's loose ends they felt they had to clean up. I'm like, no. They just had fun characters out there and they wanted to play with them. And to me, here's my grand thesis. If Jen were here, she'd play the thesis, please, sound. I just think people need to remember these are comic book movies, and even in these later stages, they're looking more and more like comic books, right? They work that way. It's just about characters. It's, if I go buy a Bucky Barnes comic book, I'm just excited to see Bucky or whoever,
Exactly.
right? And so I'm just excited to see Cap and spend a little time with these characters. And the last thing I'll say, because I've ranted, but thank you. This is what you paid for.
This is what I paid for.
The last thing I'll say is, Captain America, and particularly Sam Wilson, Captain America, is a really special superhero to my son. I really don't even know why, but Falcon and Winter Soldier hit in the second year of COVID. He and I watched every episode of it. He loved it. I mean, and there were some dark episodes. That's actually a confession of bad parenting. And he cut cardboard wings out and strapped them on and ran in circles around our backyard when he could go literally nowhere else for weeks. And he's much older now. He actually threw away the cardboard wings, but I fished them out and saved them in the basement because I'm like, we got to keep these are perfect. And so he was so excited. His one complaint is he wanted twice as much Red Hulk, but he had so much fun. And so that, to me, it's a lesson we sometimes learn in Star Wars too. It's like, it's for the kids, and if they're having fun and if they're loving it, then who am I to lambast it on the internet? But I'm in the minority on this one, I think.
No, I get it. And I've loved Falcon, ever since, coming from the comics as well. And I loved, when Cap and the Falcon were together. I remember, Falcon and the Winter Soldier. I'll probably have to go back and rewatch it. And that one, it kind of felt like it's an interesting bookend as far as like a movie that was kind of maybe chopped up into a series. And in some cases, I kind of thought this might have been a decent series as well, just because it could have breathed a little more. There was a lot they tried to cram in, obviously, with Giancarlo Esposito's character, whose name now is escaping me, but he had a
Sidewinder or
Sidewinder, yes.
Yeah, and from Serpent, so I get those confused. Yes.
Okay. and of course with the leader, which I am, peripherally familiar with, but I am not big on. I think he's an Incredible Hulk villain, I think, but I just don't have enough history with him, so I didn't really get, he didn't really bother me. I like the character actor that plays him, and I thought, as far as that, could I have used a few more superheroes in it? I was really happy that Bucky turns up in it. I kind of expected to kind of see War Machine, Don Cheadle. I'm like, because especially after, Secret Invasion, you're like, okay, he's working for, but, I get what they're trying to do. And, so it's interesting. I prefer they put it out than not put it out. I enjoyed it now. And kind of like with the Star Wars movies, I'm like, it pushes the story forward. I think at the end of the day, I'm like, you should have your movies push the main story forward and use Disney Plus to do the stuff that maybe is a little too nerdy for us. Like that's, as much as I'm not crazy about Echo, that's a place for it, right? And we're going to get right into Daredevil, and Daredevil, was it Reborn? And I get that where you could have those two. And I every time I see a Daredevil trailer, I'm like, oh my gosh. And then now I'm going to be like, am I going to be watching this at the same time as Andor season 2? But yeah, I thought it was a fine film. There were much worse out there, but I think if I think of like movies, Marvel movies that I will not go back and watch again, probably not a lot of the Ant-Man ones. Not that I'm on record saying they're not some of my favorites, but I will like to watch something like this to kind of see what I'm missing. And now I can go back and do Eternals, going, okay, there's a cookie at the end of this film that you have to figure out, and you just kind of have to, sometimes when you're like seeing it for the first time on Disney Plus, it doesn't have that same feelings when you see it in a theater, good or bad. It's watching a movie in a theater is what it's all about. So I'm happy that they're back. I'm happy that I don't have like 6 Marvel movies to watch this year.
Just 3.
So there you go. But at any rate,
yeah. And I think, so Thunderbolts ends out this phase, which I believe is phase 5, and then Fantastic Four starts the next phase working towards Doomsday and Secret Wars, and I think it's going to, people who got frustrated that things aren't connecting as well, I think they're going to have more of a kind of clear direction after this. And it's all a failure of their own success, but it's been the movie going time of my life to keep up with this franchise, and I'll be there still, absolutely, no matter where it is.
See, and you are the perfect antithesis to accidentally coming across a lot of these Rob Liefeld reels that I'm just like, swipe, it's like that's, I don't care where you come. That's just not how I want to spend my entertainment minutes, is just going off on rants. And I think just to kind of put a button on this is why I enjoyed the Colby Cast episode of Colby, Luke and Caleb talking about this, because it was such a nice, kind of a casual talk, and it was fun. And, like I said, there's the three of them together. They've got this great rapport, obviously. And, it was a great way to talk about it. And I didn't feel like I had to do a lot of homework for the episode. And it was like, it was just a nice casual discussion. So, like I said, this was a bookend for it, but good movies. And like you said, Star Wars tie-ins. And now, right, we get to the week. We're starting off minding our own business, and Andor Season 2 trailer drops. What were your first reactions when you were watching this?
Well, because you shared your thoughts before, I will just say I was teaching. I teach 12 to 1 on the East Coast, and my phone is like exploding in my pocket. And I was like, oh no, like what is happening? And, it's only a 50-minute class. And because of all the lecturing I do to the students, I try really hard not to look at my phone. But it got to the point, I'm like, I got to peek at this really carefully. And then I did just enough to see, Andor trailer. I think the top message when I peeked was Carl from Wampa's Lair being like, Andor Season 2 trailer, exclamation, exclamation. And so I was like, all right, that's very exciting, but I can wait. And I actually even had the wherewithal to go back to my office and sit and open it up on my laptop so that I could watch it properly. This was wild as a Star Wars trailer, right? Like, I don't think we've ever seen anything quite like this in marketing Star Wars. And of course, we had the pop song on the Skeleton Crew trailer, but that was in-universe translated to Huttese. This was just a good old-fashioned song from our universe, being played over, some really exciting footage. So first reaction, I mean, we just ranked all our Disney Plus shows on CWK. People should track down those episodes. And Andor's my number one, and I'm ride or die. I am so excited. and this trailer really pumped me up. What about you? What was your reaction?
I have to say, it's after I watched it, I said, this is Disney Plus knowing that they have gold. And this is a confident trailer. This is not like you expect it very low tone and there's a lot of like, just under the radar type, music, a musical bed that goes under it. This is one that kind of gets in your face and going, yeah, you like this. You've been waiting for it. We're going to give it to you. And, with the explosions. And of course, for the first several seconds, it's just shots from people walking with their backs to us. And you're just like, okay, who's this person? Who's this person? Stuff's blowing up. But you can really see not only the confidence in this trailer, but in Cassian Andor himself. Some time has elapsed from, scrambling to get off of Ferrix with whatever you had left. Now he's coming after you. And you better be ready for this revolution. And apparently a lot of people dancing. So that was an interesting mix of explosions and, of course, Dance Dance Mothma Revolution. But, yeah, it just was so in your face that it just begged. It's like almost like it grabbed you by the shoulders and like, watch me. So
well, and I think, I've heard a couple Star Wars fans who are a little cooler on Andor. I think the fact that it's a little more mature, and not in terms of violence, but in terms of kind of pacing and storytelling, turned a few people off. I don't think I've heard anybody who hates it, but maybe some people who've only watched it once and that was good compared to the weirdos who watch everything 28 times speaking. And so I do think that, if it has any bad reputation, it's probably that it's kind of slow, because I do think the first season has pretty slow. And I was actually thinking back, and this will come up when we talk review schedule, to that first night of Andor with the 3 episodes. And it was, 3 episodes that very first evening. And they were, by the end of it, you were like, well, what's happening? like, what did I just watch? Like, I was totally engrossed. I loved the characters already, but I didn't necessarily understand like what it was building towards. And then, of course, that was paid off in spades, and then into the second and third and on arcs, that is. So to me, this trailer was pitched at, maybe you don't try Star Wars, and this is Star Wars you should try. It was that big energy, big excitement. And then I thought the choice to do primarily critics quotes really aiming squarely at the prestige TV people. It's like if you're watching House of Dragon or you're watching Rings of Power, not just fantasy shows, if you're watching White Lotus, I feel like this is trying to tell you like this needs to be in your portfolio because you'll be missing out if you're not checking this out. And that is all just my long-winded way to say I think you nailed it when you said they are very confident in this season, in Tony Gilroy. They know they've got something really good, and they're just going to draw in more people because they know they have us weirdos who will watch it 28 times.
Definitely. And, you're going to see it, especially when we kind of get to how they're going to present it, that they really want to make as big a splash as possible for a short amount of time. But they really want to make a big splash with this and upon subsequent, like viewings, because there's so much that happens very quickly and a lot of characters, one or two they probably could have held back. You didn't need to throw that into the trailer. And by the way, this is your warning that we're several minutes in. There's going to be spoilers for Andor season 2. That if you haven't seen the trailer, just stop and you can come back a little later and we'll rant about something else. But yeah, it's interesting. So I mean, there's a lot of boxes I think that kind of initially, if you're a big fan of the show, that they do tick off. Were there scenes in this that really was like, oh my gosh, I'm seeing that, or it looks like they're going to do that? What were some of the ones there that you're like, I'm writing this down. I need to refer back to this one later?
Literally all of them.
Yeah,
it was pretty great, but I'll answer your question for real. And this gets into a little speculation, which we try to do responsibly. I'm very interested in this wheat planet. And the large shots of kind of the big wheat field really scream Dantooine to me. And we don't have a lot of established Dantooine in canon. It's mostly video games and the Clone Wars micro series, the Genndy Tartakovsky. There's a big battle on Dantooine, and it's always presented as a planet full of big grassy plains. And so I think, if you're in the time frame right leading up to Rogue One and A New Hope, then Dantooine's in play with the Rebel Alliance. And I imagine we're going to get the story of what base that was, who's in control of that base. We've got is it a Cassian cell? Is it a Saw Gerrera cell? And why do they have to abandon it? And what a great old-fashioned, pick up a plot line from the original movie and pull on that. So if it's not Dantooine, I understand and I won't be upset, but I really think it is.
I think that's kind of, I think you're right. I think they're handing that on a silver platter because that would be something that entire movies have been made on one line. But it does kind of make sense. And I think I've mentioned it before. It's like there is so much out there in canon and Legends that you can pluck from. There's no need to create new because you have that out there. And you're going to make some nerd like you or me happy that you did this, or this, as I was doing sketches of Jackson the Rabbit today at lunchtime. I mean, there it is. There, number one. But yeah, I that's interesting because for me, it's like seeing Orson Krennic, and there's director Bennett out there somewhere. So yay! One of the only places where they stopped the music. Right, there was a scene with him and Saw Gerrera, and he was like, what a party this is, and you're going, oh yeah, and it, although we see some of the other characters, I think his return and maybe him being the main villain in some of that, it's just really like, wow, yes, it's nice to see Ben Mendelsohn back, Secret Invasion. I'm on record for that, but I'm excited to see him back to throw on the cape again. And yeah, he's going to chew up scenery.
Yes, I mean that's where he's the best, and I did tease director Bennick, friend of the show, because I pointed out that I said, who's this tool in the cape, and what's true about Krennic is he is kind of a tool. Although Bennett gave me the nice rewrite that he's like, the beauty of it is he doesn't know he's a tool, and I'm like, oh, I think that's right. Is that he thinks everybody around him is a fool, but he's got it figured out. But a wonderful opportunity to pick up that character. There are a couple shots which I could be mistaken, but sure looked like he was with Mon Mothma. And those two bouncing off each other sounds fantastic to me, and kind of putting him in that world. Remember in Rogue One, there is one flashback of Galen and Krennic on Coruscant. So we know he's probably, you could easily write that he's in the social circles that Mon Mothma's been traveling in. And that's really exciting. And to think about, if he's the one sniffing them out, would he put his arms out and be mentor to I'm forgetting her name, the female Imperial officer played by
I was just watching that over the weekend. Why?
Deirdre Miro, and Cyril Karn. I mean, when last we left them, they were sharing a super awkward, intimate moment, and yet she owes him his life. So you might imagine she'd pull him in. Now, he wasn't in uniform in his glamour shot, but we did get his tie, and we also got your favorite.
You're gonna say it. You're gonna say it.
Who showed up towards the end? I'll let you say it.
Oh, Edie Karn. Oh my gosh, Mama Karn. My heart stopped, and they just showed her laughing. I'm like, yes, I don't care where you are used, but I will treasure every second you are on screen. I don't get Sergeant. Sergeant Mosk. I don't get him back. I'll just have to live through the reruns of season 1. But I get Edie Karn back, and I also have to, a friend got me did me a commission from Uzuri Art. She does stuff for Tops,
she's fantastic.
Did a Edie Karn digitally for me. I have to dig that out. She did a great job. Took a little while, but she did a great job. But yes, what a great character, and it's just one of those that goes to show how deep these characters they built are. And I think what's going to be a great thing in season 2 is, I don't know how many new characters we're going to get. I'm certain we'll see them, but a lot of these characters, it's going to have that Empire feel where it's like we got everybody established and they're hitting the ground running, and it's going to be action packed, and it's just going to be like, so it's like almost like a victory lap every time you're going to see one of these season 1 characters, whether you see Bix, whether you see, and I keep forgetting the large fellow. Brasso. And, you see.
And Melshi, right?
Melshi,
And the kid, I don't remember, the one I can never remember is the young kid whose father was killed at the funeral.
Oh, shoot. Yeah, that's right.
He jumped on the ship too. But these are all, I want to I'm so excited about the point you just made, because it's insane that we had one season of this show and we got so many characters and we loved so many of them, right? Because I agree with you about Edie Karn and everybody you just named. Adria Arjona, who played Bix, had a couple incredible moments, but didn't get a ton of action in the first season.
Yes.
And now she's right in the thick of it. And she had a great film year. She was in Hitman with Glenn Powell, now available to stream on Netflix. And she was in Blink Twice, Zoe Kravitz's first directorial debut. And you watch those and you're like, dang, she can act. She's really good. And so to get, she was incredible in the torture scene. I'm certainly, that was memorable. But to see her be a part of the team now, I'm really excited for. And then just because you mentioned cards, you reminded me, I have I have 2 trading cards that sit on my desk when we record, and they are the living set from Chris Penix, right?
Yes.
And it's Mon Mothma and Cyril Karn, Sit and Watch Me. Would it have made more sense to, grab Cassian? Of course. But I love those two sitting and looking at me.
Well, and, the actress that did Mon Mothma, whose name, of course, also is
Genevieve O'Reilly.
Genevieve O'Reilly.
Coming to theaters in late April in Star Wars: Revenge of the Sith. Go ahead.
Oh, yes. But, it's going to be, more of her is just also a gift, because we're going to get some great story. And it just goes back to, these characters that are introduced some that were introduced in Return of the Jedi. 1983, you're getting it paid off, and it's great because she has just traveled whatever she's been presented in. She's just done an amazing job.
I can't believe her life as an actress, that she did a little bit role, and yes, it was kind of an important one. She probably knew Mon Mothma was an important character, but she gets largely cut out of Revenge of the Sith. Most of her performance is on the cutting room floor and in some really cool deleted scenes that are on the DVD. I don't know if they're on Disney Plus. And then she gets this call for the most incredible television role, and it just snowballs into all of this. And I'm going to be a little petty and say I didn't like that she showed up in Ahsoka, because I was like, I went Will Smith. I'm like, keep my wife's name out your mouth and get her back on Andor, because she's the center of the story in Andor, and in Ahsoka she was just kind of a cameo side moment, and what she did was great. Great performer, but I was like, no, you don't get her. She belongs in the other show. So here's my, again, irresponsible speculation. I think the dance is the wedding, right? Because we know that she essentially gave up her daughter in order to advance the rebellion. So I think this has got to be the wedding or the betrothal ceremony. Crazy.
Well, and you see, with Stellan Skarsgård, Luthen is back, and Forrest Whitaker, Saw Gerrera is back. You have to wonder, will we see Galen Erso?
I mean,
Mads? Will we see Mads?
He's locked away somewhere, but if you've got Krennic bopping around, my impression of Mads is he's happy to get the call for anything, and he'll kind of show up and do a small role. And I think he's got that great career where he balances these big franchise moments with his small little independent films, and has a great time doing both. I mean, most recently, working for Lucasfilm in Indiana Jones. So, I think he has a great relationship with the company, and I think if Kathleen called him, he'd probably be willing to come back and do a couple scenes or something like that. Just one other silly one, because you mentioned Saw Gerrera. There's the shot of the dead pilot of some kind in a hallway, and there's a freighter and two X-Wings taking off. Those X-Wings are Saw's partisans, and I know this because I bought the Micro Machines back when Rogue One came out. And I have those little X-Wings that are painted with a distinctive black and white. And I think they were going to have some larger role. You see them in the film Rogue One parked outside Saw's cave, and they kind of are in that as it all blows up. But I'm like, oh, those are partisans. I mean, I'm not sure which planet that is, but, is Saw out and about causing a lot of mayhem? The beautiful moment he gets at the end of the trailer before the bumper is really kind of being intense and convincing somebody it's time to fight. So,
Saw being
Greg,
Saw.
I was nearly asleep an hour ago, and now I'm gonna go run 10 miles outside because you've got me amped up remembering this and talking about it all again. Nothing beats Andor. It's so exciting to have it back.
Well, tell you what, yes, and that's what a great segue, because we were riding a high. We saw the trailer, we watched it again, and about 5 minutes later, screenshots started coming and passed along to me. I wasn't the first. I think Mary might have been the first one. Hey, check this out. And I know I passed it along to a couple other folks who were like, wait, what?
I passed it along too. Yeah.
They are releasing this in sets of 3 over a 4-week period. And the first thing out of my mouth wasn't, yay. It was, oh, crap. We knew this for a long time, that this was this season was a condensed from several seasons that they originally thought, and they're going to put these just kind of like how the first season is done in 3 episode arcs, over 12, over 12 episodes, 12 episodes here, but they are being condensed in. Does that maybe say that these episodes are shorter than maybe what we were expecting? Question mark.
Boo! I don't like that thought. It was a tough bit of news. Like it disappointed me, and I mean, we joke about our content and so on, but like it was kind of the plan to have like 3 solid months of Andor, or maybe 10 weeks, because they often bump up a couple together or something. So to hear that it's all coming at once at kind of a really busy time of year is kind of hard from a content perspective. And I think my initial reaction was that this must have been a Disney decision, because something in the algorithm told them that people want the batches and that it was too slow. And, if I have a fault of Lucasfilm and Disney, I think they are too responsive to negative voices online. And, again, you find those people online who are like, nothing happens in this show. It takes for watch 4 things and nothing but. And I'm available for impressions.
There's your YouTube channel right there. I just want that for a half hour of straight that. Yeah.
So I was like, oh, they're going to put this together. And, I am, as a person, I'm very much against this model. My best counterpoint for this is Stranger Things. And Stranger Things has become a show that I don't get to talk to anybody about, because half my friends watch it the first day all in one sitting, and half of us spread it out. And so you do that thing where you sit down and you're like, which one are you on? Well, I don't know, 4 or 5. Well, did this happen yet? What? I didn't know that was going to happen. And it becomes this whole thing. And it's just terrible. So, I watch Stranger Things. I enjoy it, but I don't talk to anybody about it. I just sit and watch it on my own at my own speed. So I do think I'm glad it's not a whole season on one day. And I'm going to take from Star Wars Explained, Alex, in this case, because he was the host of the video this time around without Molly. And Alex pointed out what this means is we get 4 Star Wars movies released once a week for a month. And if you pitch it that way, that doesn't sound too shabby, right? Like that will be a lot. And, if it's 9 o'clock drops, that's a lot in the evening. Or if it's, early morning, that's a lot to watch before work. Although my semester ends during that first week, so I'm good. I can just do whatever. But I think all those concerns are valid, and it will be harder to cover. But I do think it's gonna be really cool. I have faith that they're doing this for a reason, and so. It did come out later that this is not a Disney decision. This is Tony Gilroy. And Tony Gilroy saying, I did a year at a time, and I want you to have each year. And we'll experience the what events happen one week. And then when we come back to the characters, a whole year will have passed. And I think that is actually going to be effective compared to, if it's week to week and then you're like, wait, there's a big time jump in this one, but not last week. And what's going on? And how do we do this? This way, it's like, you love these characters. Here are 4 years in their lives, once a week for 4 weeks. And that sounds fun. It sounds different. We'll see how it feels at the end of it. But yeah, those are going to be long shows, Greg.
Well, and also it's like, we have gotten, beat over the head with, and we've talked about it on this program, as far as, it's expensive to make these shows. They're very, bottom line oriented and return on investment, and where are they getting the subscribers from? So, we're all kind of thinking like, this is gold, right? You see the trailer, you see this confidence. They know they got that. They're just going to milk it. And, some conventional wisdom would be like, make this thing go as long as possible, because obviously you're going to announce something at Celebration. But we would have known if something was in production or nearing coming out, or maybe just not. But I'm like, okay, even if something's been announced and it's the greatest thing since sliced bread and it's coming out year or two like that, there's a long time between now and then. As I looked at my Disney Plus subscription bundle, now I have, I like, a lot of us were day one Disney Plus, like, just take my money. And so I got the triple. I had, ESPN Plus, Hulu Plus, and Disney Plus. And at that time, what was it, like $15? But over time, that got too expensive. And I was like, I don't watch ESPN Plus. So I went down to what I thought was a nice, transition around. It was $2 cheaper, and it was basically Disney Plus and Hulu Plus without commercials. And it was like 19. It's down from like $21.99. And I'm like, well, if Daredevil Born Again and Andor are all going to kind of be done by summer. What was I calling it? It's going to be a Disney Plus dry summer, where I'm like, well, I could certainly go down to the $10.99 bundle of those two. I still keep that content, but I'd be paying $10.99 a month. And I'm like, if you don't want me to pay you that extra $9 or $10 a month, we can have that. And maybe that's what they kind of want. I listen to a lot of podcasts that talk about, like streaming and so forth. And maybe it's more important for them to make sure we just don't come and go and we stay on and watch the ads. And I'm like, well, if that was your game, Disney Plus, you got me. I'm watching an ad. Well, I'm like, I'm 50 some years old. I'm like, I've watched a lot of ad TV in my day. I'm okay with it. And that's when, especially when you're a middle-aged man, that's going to the bathroom time. So, we both win at the end of the day. But it's just odd that, what is it going to take on the other end of this to keep me on Disney Plus? You have said it yourself that, we've watched, we like watching the animation we've done, like you get the Tales of whatever, or the Visions. That's great. Visions tends to come out and it's done. And, Tales also does that. And so it's sort of like, on the one hand, you keep telling me that you should, and I think you should milk this for as long as you want. But on the other hand, I do agree with you. These will make sense. These will make sense upon release.
Yeah.
That you see these going back 6 months from now. There are people who just, wait until whenever and then they're going to watch it and maybe they'll binge it. But that'll be a completely different experience, I think. But it also means that, maybe if they could have done this where they could have gone every other week and they've released one, so at least you can ingest it. But it's just, I guess it's the way of the world that we just take whatever it is in, but sometimes I'll get to like say Severance or like a really meaty show. And sometimes I'll get 10 minutes in and then I have to back away. I'm like, okay, I need a minute to process that and go back in. And the other thing that I thought was that, if these shows are 45 minutes or longer, those are going to make for some really long nights. And is it going to be appointment TV, or is it going to be one of those where if they release it at, 2:00 in the morning or whatever, and then it's going to be, well, guess I'm not going to be on any social media at all for the day. So I would at least hope, if you're going to do it this way, commit to a time that, allows everybody to kind of watch at the same time. Don't do it because people, the people that how social media works. We're gonna get spoiled if they drop it in the middle of the night. There's just no way around it unless you just take yourself off of whatever, which is there's so much else going on. I need some of this news. All right, don't spoil it for me.
Well, and I think what you're pointing to is it feels like they know we're here and we're going to do all our coverage, and like they know the diehards and all the social media accounts are going to be doing their normal thing. So I think it again speaks to this choice to really try to grab different people to join in and maybe get that subscription for it, even if it's just for a month. So that, yes, it's so great when we have that week in between, but this way it's just going to be fast and done. And we have to accept that. The second data point, and this is dangerously close to long take review territory, except we don't watch television. But remember, the Emmys are in September. And when you want your show to be eligible for the Emmys, the entire season has to have finished by May 30th. So I think this feels like they are trying to make sure that this show is eligible. So I don't disagree with you. Every other week sounds good to me for the 1 hour the one Star Wars movie release. But if you did that, you'd stretch into June and nobody would be eligible. You are eligible then for an Emmy the following year. And that if you watch the Emmys, this often happens where you're like, what? Breaking Bad is still eligible somehow? Like, that ended so long ago. And it kind of makes it less likely you're going to get an award because you don't feel as prescient. See Dune 2 in this year's Oscar race. People barely remember it. And it's a shame because it was a fantastic movie and should be a much higher position in the race this year. And so I think keeping it there is an attempt to hopefully get I assume Diego Luna, maybe Genevieve O'Reilly, maybe Stellan Skarsgård nominations, as well as all the technical categories and the best drama shows and so on. So
that makes the biggest a big argument there because they obviously want to get their flowers for this. I mean, they paid a lot of money for it. They know it's a winner. Yeah, why not?
One of the quotes in the trailer emphasized these are Emmy-worthy performances, right? It was one of the quotes, and you're right, and you want your flowers, and then that also equals money, because if somehow Andor season 2 wins Best Drama in September, a whole bunch of subscribers are going to be like, well, I can't skip this. I got to go in and I got to get both seasons and get caught up on this thing. So.
But then, as we start to talk, and this will be something on the other side of this, will have been what is the legacy of Andor for Disney Plus. I think that is fertile ground for discussion because, how do you pick it up from here? It's sort of like, like Rogue One was a great success. We killed everybody off. Andor moves up and now runs out of room. What's left for Disney Plus to do? With this, and how do they somehow manage to get the momentum when, after Skeleton Crew kind of righted the ship, so to speak, right? I don't want to get into, we're going to get into drama here in a second, but I'm just saying that, you really want that wave to keep going. And it'll be interesting. We're in such a different place than when Andor started. We were all in Anaheim when that Andor trailer came out, and, on the heels of the Kenobi release, and it just, it was going. And then, now we're getting into kind of new territory because we know that there's an Ahsoka season 2 out there. We know there's the Grogu and Mando movie, but we don't know much anything else live action.
The only other thing that has been long stalled in development is the Lando show, which we sometimes get little updates on, that Donald Glover is working on it or that new writing teams have been hired. But if there's a live action update of some kind of show, I think it's Ahsoka season 2 in Japan, and then maybe some kind of update on Lando. If there are new shows, they're going to be small. They're going to be much more budget conscious than these big efforts. And it's going to be more 3 guys in the volume than it will be big epic takes like Andor has been.
Well, speaking of announcements, you're just the king of the segue today. The sound you hear is about 1 billion YouTube, TikTok, and Instagram reel videos being made about even the hint of a Kathleen. You mentioned Kathleen Kennedy, and it's almost like, teacher says every time a bell rings, an angel. Every time you mention her, there's like 50 videos being made of demonizing this woman. And I would have to say, for whatever the announcement, if there is an announcement of her retiring from Lucasfilm, you know what I want retired is the hate on this woman. You can totally criticize stuff, but I'm telling you, you have to be as tired of it as I am.
Oh, without a doubt. So, it's always been terrible. And, scapegoating her as the one person responsible for every decision you don't like, but not at all touching the decisions you do like, has never made sense. And a couple of the articles that were, speculating that this may be the end of her time at Lucasfilm pointed out, like, she ushered in the sequel trilogy and she did Mando. It's like, this is a successful tenure at the head of this company, even if you don't take into account the full range of her. I was done with the YouTube bros so long ago, but the moment that really broke me was when they announced the fifth Indiana Jones movie. Can't believe we have 5. And they announced
Crystal Skull hot take.
And like one of the first things, I don't think Dial of Destiny even had a title. It's just Indiana Jones is coming back. We're doing an Indiana Jones movie. And one of the first comments I saw was, oh, well, if Kathleen Kennedy's involved, it's going to be woke garbage, so count me out. And I wanted to just, like, reach through the internet and strangle him. She was a producer on Raiders of the Lost Ark. She's been there the whole time. And so, like, it's always been such bad faith arguments by just, like, these awful people. And it's no mistake that they target a woman, right? And it's no mistake that, that's who gets their ire and gets none of the credit. So, the honest truth is we're probably pretty close to the end of her career, given her age and given the level of success she's experienced between her and her husband. So I don't know if this will be proven to be true eventually, but it's coming within a year or two. I appreciate the fans who immediately go, Dave Filoni, it's time for Dave Filoni. But I just want to point out, Dave Filoni has done a great job at a certain level, and that level is far below the head of a major studio, right?
Yes.
Like he's done some great work executive producing television shows, but he has not run the whole studio system and been an actual producer at that level. And maybe he'll get there someday. But if I ran Lucasfilm, I would say, Dave, you handle the creative, right? You handle the story development. You oversee the story group. You and Charles Soule and all these others can kind of pick the directions we go in. But I think you really need a much bigger talent to run Lucasfilm than Dave Filoni. And that's with, again, all due respects to the man in the cowboy hat.
No, and I think we have, if you think about it, George Lucas being the head of Lucasfilm, how much of a unicorn that is for someone to be ahead of a large, corporation, but have also created and, moved along the universe that's in. And, when I was looking for parallels, it's like, for example, I worked for Apple. And so, I started when Steve Jobs was still there. Steve Jobs can go back to that garage in Palo Alto, right? That helped create the original Apple I motherboards. When you look at, when Steve passed and Tim Cook came over, came on as CEO. Tim Cook was in, operations. He was the one that made sure all the things worked and, like all the parts got to where they needed to, and they needed all the chips and all this kind of stuff. And so, the Apple of today is much different from the Apple that even Steve Jobs was at near the end, because of the iPhone and in some cases, you needed different CEOs at different times. The Lucasfilm that is under Disney is a much different animal and answers to so many more things than the Lucasfilm that was under Lucasfilm. And you have to also remember that, George Lucas helped fund most of his movies. So, and who's doing that? And so in which case, yes, you're not going to get that combination of someone who's capable of running a business, which I think if you went to Dave Filoni and said, would you like to be control the whole thing? He'd probably go, no, I'm good.
No, thank you. Yeah. He's got a pretty good gig.
He's
what he does.
But it's like, yes, I mean, Kathleen Kennedy her job is producing things, and they're going to create good things, and they're going to create things that just don't work. There are plenty of things that I'm like, it just didn't work for me. And so in which case I'm fine giving her blame for that. Just like when we talk about, Disney and Bob Iger and all that kind of things, and where it's like there's some stuff that work, stuff that doesn't work. And, but we are gone from the days of like Walt Disney running Disney. But, Disney's so much bigger that you need, you just need a lot of people to do it. And Star Wars is under a corporation. It's another thing, for example, if you said, all right, let's talk about, George R.R. Martin. How's that story going, George? Are you ever, if I get another ad that says George, George Martin's new work, George R.R. Martin presents, I'm like, stop. All you need to
Go
do,
write a book,
bro. All you need to do is finish what you started. And that's another case where it's like, here's a sole creator. Now, obviously, corporations have bought the rights and they're doing this kind of stuff. But I'm like, dude, you have one job. At this point, you're not even done yet. And, you're not getting any younger. Let's also talk about, interestingly enough, how the Amazon has, bought the rights for the Bond films from the Broccoli family, which I learned that was a thing I learned today, this week. Yeah. And, speaking of which, what Tolkien's only crime is he didn't write more. As Christopher Tolkien's going, Dad, could you have please finished something and make sense of this? But it's sort of like, would you prefer like a Game of Thrones that kind of ended on a, although I love, I keep thinking it's Rings of Power. What is the Game of Thrones spinoff?
House of the Dragon.
Thank you. Also thinking about, interestingly enough, time jumps within a series. But, these things are hard. And, you can throw as much money as Amazon has at Rings of Power. There's my hot take. But I'm like, I'll still watch it. But it's just one of those things where this stuff is hard. And people are going to make mistakes. And it's like, is the thing we get less or we get none at all? I'm sorry if you're a big Bond fan because you may not see a film for a while. But, they also don't buy these IPs to put on a shelf. They're not collectors like us going, yes, it's still sealed in the box and nothing can ever touch it again. No, they're going to need to make their money. I think with anything, if they listen to us at all, it's like, look, just figure out how to make good movies and good TV shows. Maybe they go together, and let us complain about them. That's all I ask.
Yeah, I mean, my biggest criticism of Kathleen is I think it's been too long since we got a movie out. I suspect behind the scenes they have some good reasons, and they want to make sure they get it right, which is a noble enterprise. But, we're talking now 6 years, and it's going to be at least a couple more, it sounds like. Maybe only one, but I think it's going to be some time still. And you're absolutely right. They buy these things to get the content out. So my guess, having no expertise at all, is that she will take this last group of 2 or 3 films that she has shepherded and use that time to still nominally run the company, but kind of train the successor that is chosen, and then use these as her kind of swan song goodbye to this universe, and then go enjoy a very well-earned retirement. Because, again, outside of Lucasfilm, this is one of the most prolific producers we've seen in Hollywood, and it's just incredible all the things she's worked on, and what a powerful, important influence she is in the movie world. So lay off, YouTubers.
Just give it a rest. The trope is tired. I think Clayton Sandell had a post on X, and I was just like, yes, it's just it's kind of done. Let it go, and then worry about the succession. Worry about who's taking over, and making sure there's good groups that are creating good stories. Yes, we're all for good stories. Make them better stories. Make them the best stories you can. Hire the best people to do the right jobs, and then get out of their way and let them do the job. That's any company. But to finish on a high note, because there was a ton of news, and it's weird feeling like a Star Wars news podcast. However, we cannot contain our excitement, because did you see that Revenge of the Sith poster?
I'm already emptying out the frame behind me to get that Revenge of the Sith poster in here. And I saw the artist Matt Ferguson, who has a phenomenal Instagram account. If people haven't followed it. He said he made it all Anakin and wanted to show how it's all twisted around Anakin by this point in the trilogy, and Vader's just looming, and all of that comes through in the artwork. And I'm very excited. I think we remember from last year, I way overcommit to these releases, and I plan... I want to try to get to a 4DX theater, which is a bit of a drive for me, but to get the motion seats and the water spraying and the heat and the fog effects, I want to try to do all that. I already told my wife we can all 4 go again, and she said, "How about you take the kids?" And I said, "Okay." But I think it's a wonderful tradition. This is now many years in a row of these releases, and it's just fantastic. And it'd be great to have a new Star Wars movie in theaters too, but it's become a great yearly tradition, and I can't wait to. I mean, I have bought every single one of these posters. So he's now done Empire, Jedi, Phantom Menace. He did Rogue One, I think, at the theatrical release, and now Revenge of the Sith. So he's got to get a beautiful Attack of the Clones in there somewhere, and then he really needs to do a beautiful A New Hope for the 50th, because we are knocking on the door of that 50th anniversary. So can't wait. So excited. Revenge of the Sith is my favorite prequel. So I'll be there. I was already trying to watch it 20 times this year for the anniversary. So we'll knock out as many of those in the theater as we can. You'll be there?
Yes, I agree. Revenge of the Sith was my favorite. I remember seeing it on Father's Day. I have a very beat-up copy of the Who's Your Daddy poster. My son was 4 or 5 or something like that, and so I think he had his plastic lightsaber he brought with him. It was the green one, so it must have been Qui-Gon's. Nice. But yeah, it'll be fun to go back and see it like in a big theater. I usually I try to do the 3-peat ones. I think I'd seen way back in the day. I used to see him like 3 times, and I'll be there for hopefully any swag giveaways or something just to make it fun, because I think that's what the experience is. For the studios, it's a no-brainer because it's gonna make money, and you're just like, yeah, this is just, it's a no-brainer to re-release this. Get your flowers for it, and I'm sure Topps is going to be doing some things for the 20th anniversary. So I'm really excited, and what a great capper for the week. What do we have? We're looking at another.
Not just the poster, but remember they put the poster on
Ooh.
cups and popcorn buckets for Phantom Menace. So that's what I'm holding out for. These were at Cinemark last time, so
That's right.
that's not as big a chain as AMC and Regal, but
We do have one. We do have one that recently opened back up, and so I am very excited.
and I just ordered them from their online shop, so you can get them no matter what. But I love all of it, right? The popcorn bucket craze is so silly, but if you got that one special release, go hog wild, make it a real fun night out, throw the extra money down, and if you then go to the movies 5 other times every week, then you're just a weirdo like me. But it's such a special occasion when it's Star Wars. I told Carl from Wampa's Lair a long time ago, when Star Wars is in the theaters, you go see Star Wars. It doesn't matter which one it is. It doesn't matter. When Attack of the Clones gets this treatment, I'll go. I mean, it's not my favorite, but I'll go and I'll make sure I see it. So I do love being in the big theater, seeing it with a big crowd, like you said.
I want to see Ross Holleben still wearing the Gene Simmons makeup, which I don't completely understand from today's thread. It was a lot to take in.
It looked like an HR complaint to me, but I wasn't paying attention.
I had a great joke in there that fell exactly flat. I was like, "Oh," he's like, "I don't do this every day," and I'm like, "Oh, what? Bring your poster into work?" And that just joke just fell flat.
I liked it. I saw it.
I know, but there must have been a charity event or something event like that where he had to don the Gene Simmons look, and I was like, yes, I want you in the theater for the 20th anniversary of Revenge of the Sith, wearing that, with the popcorn and just the tongue out. I want to see that. Maybe Dan Zare will do that. He's a big Kiss fan as well.
That's right.
At any rate. All righty. Well, we hit about the hour, and all that. Like I said, this is a little different than our normal, questions and or breakfast packs. But those will be a little different as it is. But as we are kind of getting closer to 100 breakfast packs, we're only a couple more away. So who knows whether there will be another trailer or something. But I am sure once Oscar season and the vacation that all y'all over at the Long Take are taken, maybe we can jump back on and get some more reactions to it. But I am excited for what's coming up for you folks. So why don't you let me and everybody know what's happening and how the Long Take is going to handle the Oscars?
So good to catch up with you and to talk all things Star Wars. It is good. I love these ones that are just a couple buddies talking Star Wars, because I don't get enough of that at all. So I will just say Long Take Review is hard working towards our Oscar season. I limited our time tonight partially because I have been in this basement. I recorded 7 hours over the weekend of podcasts between shows. So Long Take Reviews in the can include Flow, a great animated movie about a cat, which is now available on streaming. I'm Still Here, the international feature from Brazil, which is just incredible viewing for anybody. And then I stayed for 3 hours of the prediction show. It went at least another hour after I left. It might be a 4 or 5 hour episode, or it might be 2 episodes. But that one is dropping next. So this would be our Oscar prediction. So if you are going to an Oscar party or in an office pool, we will walk you through every single category. And unlike the Oscars, we do the big ones first. So the first hour is the categories you really care about. And if you're a real sicko weirdo, you can hang out till makeup 5 hours later. So.
Well, I knew that Jen meant business when she showed the picture posted the picture of all the Post-it notes that are color coordinated. And, of course, Anthony from Force Coast Conversations and I were looking going, that woman needs a whiteboard. I need a whiteboard, but that woman really needs a whiteboard. But then she was like,
whiteboard.
She's moving stuff up. It kind of reminds me of like the old days when you got like the little football helmets and you're like, all right, we're going to kind of move everybody up the standings. I don't know. But nice. At any rate, but yeah, the guys are putting in such great work over there, and it's been really fun. And like I said, it's kind of nice, especially like with Colby Cast and Force Ghost, and CWK. I know everybody's doing a great job, and I know this is going to be a challenge to get Andor in, but it's going to be fun. No matter what, this is a labor of love. We're going to have a great time. So at any rate,
good stories and community. That's all we need.
Exactly. All right. And until that time, until we meet again, if they want to follow you online, where can they find you?
Mostly these days, I'm just on Instagram and Letterboxd at EyonCanon, EYEONCANON. I also just hit 150 movies for the year on Letterboxd. So again, I please send help. I have problems.
Alrighty. And if you have questions for the Breakfast Pack, you can find us on the socials at X, Instagram, Facebook, Threads, Blue Sky. I don't think I can say Hive anymore. They're back end of this. I think Hive might have taken a dive for good. I feel bad for Frank. I think he was the only other one that was seeing my stuff on Hive. But at any rate, at Rebel Base Card. All right. I'd like this to go longer, but I need to get Greg on back. We will be back sometime soon between now and then, maybe with another hot stove, or maybe we'll just go straight into Andor because there's a lot of Andor coming up. But anyway.
We'll be on after Star Wars Celebration Japan because there will be something to talk about.
Oh my goodness!
So don't forget we have that before Andor. So.
Oh yeah, just a few things. All right. So until then, for Greg Cass, my name is Greg McLaughlin. We're going to return you now to your podcast playlist, already in progress. This podcast is not affiliated in any way with Topps, Disney, or Star Wars, nor is it endorsed by Disney or Lucasfilm, and is intended for entertainment and informational purposes only. All names and sounds and any other related items are properties of their respective trademarks and/or copyright holders here in the U.S. and abroad. The official Star Wars website can be found at www.starwars.com.
That's it.
Are those cookies? They look like good cookies.
Which ones?
Behind you? Maybe they're not cookies.
Oh, actually.
Oh, there's Oreo. Oh, look at all the Oreos behind you. That's the one I spotted.
So this is Matt's Cookies. Matt's Cookies, they're actually just made down the street. This is a double chocolatey chip. These were on sale. These are really good. Now, the Oreos you saw, and I say that you got a good eye, my friend.
Oh, the Post Malone. I can tell from the package.
Here's what I'm going to say. I have no idea who Post Malone is. And from the picture at Jewel Osco, pretty scary. I'm sure he's a talented and fine guy.
Sure.
Maybe a father, husband, and all that. But these Oreos that have like the swirled salted caramel, these are the stuff, man. I'm like,
yeah,
this is like crack. This is better than the Star Wars Oreos.
Wow.
With apologies and R.I.P. Greg Hildebrandt. But I'm like, yeah. So sad, and they were also on sale too. So I'm like,
nice.
I like your Oreos when they're on sale. But anyway,
I saw a really funny tweet the other day that said, my favorite part of grocery shopping is just to go look at the Oreo shelf and see what those little freaks are up to now. And it's like, yeah, that's kind of how it feels these days. They do wild flavors.
Yeah, forget the retirement gig. I want to be on like the Oreo R&D department. It's like, what do you think of this one? And me just, sure.
More salt.
I know. Where's the Canadian maple frosting or the maple cream filled Oreos? Why can't I find anything? I have to go to Canada to get the maple cream cookies.
Oh, you should live up here. That's one of our staple flavors in New England. So, all right. If I see anything good, I'll send it along.